Hi, everybody. We are now live on Facebook, and thank you for coming and joining us today. My name is Marika Lynch. I am a board member with Ruth Florida and part of the leadership team of Ruth Miami. We help, as you probably know, recruit, train, and elect pro-choice Democratic women to state and local office. And we're excited to be here today. And I really wanted to thank Vote Water for co-hosting this event today and helping to spread the word about Cindy's candidacy and what she's trying to do for our county. I know I especially wanted to thank everybody for coming at this time. I know it's been a very emotional week, to say the least, for everybody. But when I think about all the statements and all the feelings that I've been reading over the past 2 days or 3 days, I think a lot about what President Barack Obama said yesterday, and he was trying to point to solutions and what we can do. And one of the things he said was, think about who are the people that actually have control over procedures and budgeting for the police. And he said, it's not the federal officials, it's state and local officials. And that's why it's so important to elect ones that share your beliefs. And that's really why we're here today, to talk to Cindy Lerner, who wants to be county commissioner for District 7, has been a longtime leader here, in conversation with Senator Annette Taddeo. So thank you so all for coming. I want to quickly introduce Cindy and Annette, and then we'll launch in the conversation. Anytime you want, you can put a question in the chat and we'll address it as we get towards the end. Cindy, as I may have mentioned, started her career as a guardian ad litem here, decided that she wanted to do more to help Florida's children, and ran for the state legislature. And then became Pinecrest's mayor. And of course, Annette Taddeo is now a senator, but she's been a longtime Democratic leader here in South Florida, so a small business owner, and in 2017 flipped a seat in the Senate from red to blue. And we're thankful to have her in the Senate, so thanks for being there. Before we start, we have people coming into this conversation from a lot of different directions, people who have been involved in policy debates for a long time, people who are newcomers. So I would love for you to say, and very briefly, what a county commissioner does, Cindy, and then Annette, what a state senator does.
Okay, well, first I want to thank Ruth's List for, can you hear me? Okay. I want to thank Ruth's List for facilitating this conversation, and for my good friend Annette to participate in it with me, and Marika. And so I chose to continue my advocacy and public service beyond my 8-year term as mayor, because I saw that there were so many really critical, significant issues that impact our quality of life in Miami-Dade County, whether in a municipality or an unincorporated Dade. The control over transit, over water and sewer, over our environmental issues. There are just so many things that it's critical that we have county commissioners understand what the needs are, set policies that are forward thinking, and then put investments where those investments need, so that we can enjoy the life that we have tried to establish here, notwithstanding the current challenges that we're all facing. And certainly those are not short term. We've got some very long-term health, economic, environmental issues that have to be dealt with. And there I was president of the League of Cities, how important it was that there be collaboration between the county and the cities that had not taken place. And so when my term was up, I decided until the opportunity, which is now with term limits. I've been running for almost a year, over a year actually. And the election's right around the corner. So I appreciate this opportunity to have a conversation and get people involved.
Hello, everyone. I'm Senator Annette Taddeo, and I'm delighted to be here. First of all, thank you for being here with us. And just to share with you, in the Senate, in Florida, we do a lot of things. Obviously, the number one thing and the only thing we are required to do is pass a budget, which is, something we discuss the entire session. We are in Tallahassee supposedly for only 60 days, but you have to add all the committee weeks in addition to the 60-day session that we have. And as a matter of fact, we're dealing with a lot right now in the sense that we passed the budget based on projections of how much was going to be coming into the coffers in Florida. Clearly, that was way off. What is really, really very important for you to know is that even though we pass this budget, we're probably at some point going to have to go back and either amend it or do different things because what we, the Democrats, asked for was a special session for us to actually discuss the many things that are going on during COVID-19, especially unemployment. But we will not be doing that probably just because it's a political year, frankly, and the Republicans who are in power at the governor's mansion, the House and the Senate, really don't want to have, I'm going to be just brutally honest, they don't want to give an opportunity for us, the Democrats, to really highlight so many of the things that are wrong with our state and that are going wrong right now, such as unemployment. But furthermore, this was a budget where we worked really hard for many years to get teachers a much-deserved raise, to get fully funding for affordable housing. So we did so many things that I felt so proud, including fully funding, also the fact that we, the voters, voted to buy back lands that we feel should be protected. So all these things were in that budget. And what we need to make sure, and the reason why we need to elect the right people to go to Tallahassee, is because when we go back next January for the next session, since they're not willing to do a special session, they all voted against it just along party line, we are going to need to make sure that we don't make the teachers, our environment, our affordable housing be the ones to take the cuts. They've been taking the cuts since the last recession. So this is what a state senator does. And I am obviously a big fighter for the things that we all believe in and will continue to be a big fighter for that. But I just want you to know why this is so important. And in addition to that, the thing that we will be doing next that is so important, as you know, I hope every one of you has filled out your census. Well, you fill out the census, then those numbers come, which is why everybody needs to be counted, every single person, including babies. Many people forget about babies. And those numbers come to us, guess what? We draw the maps. We draw the maps for congressional districts. We draw the maps for state senate and state house. This is so important. So important. And this is coming down the road. Now, I don't have an election. I already got reelected after my special election. But I can tell you that with this election, we're going to have an opportunity and right now we see an opportunity to get to 20 senators out of 40. That means a split. We don't have the Supreme Court right now. So if we don't have the strength to push for the maps, we're going to be run over by the Supreme Court, which has been stacked against us by the governor. So that's in essence a really short summary of what a senator does, but I thought I would pick on these specific items that I think are so important besides passing laws and doing things. This will affect us for decades. As a matter of fact, we'll be drawing the maps for 10 years. We'll be deciding whether or not people have an opportunity to truly elect representatives of the people and not just what one party draws to their benefit so they can stay in power longer.
Wonderful. Well, let's start the conversation, Annette.
Great. So I'm going to start asking Cindy some questions, and You know, as you were saying, Marika, we are going through a very tough time in our country, and a lot is going on. Obviously, not just because of COVID-19, but now with all the protests and the absolute murder that we saw on video, and all of the things that we've been seeing, unfortunately, way too much. I wanted to ask you, Cindy, and I was, right before this call, I was talking to one of some of the pastors in my area, and I wanted to ask you, Cindy, about the protests and police brutality and racism, and specifically as an elected official. I know you've been an elected official in Tallahassee, where I am now. You were a state rep, and you've been a mayor. You were my mayor in Pinecrest, but you're running for county commission. What can we as elected officials do in these instances to make sure that these type of police brutality doesn't ever happen again?
You know, perfect opportunity. The crisis presents itself as the motivation for Miami-Dade County to do what the commission has refused to do for the last several years, and that is to recreate a civilian oversight panel. There is one at this Miami that operates well. Used to be one for many years in Miami-Dade. Was one of the first ones nationally, and it ran well, but it was eliminated as a budgetary, I guess during the recession, a lot of really important things got cut and never brought back. And the mayor at the time was Mayor Alvarez, who had come from the police department. The opportunity to eliminate Miami-Dade County's civilian oversight panel. There are a group of community organizations, more than a dozen, that have been working for several years to try to bring that back to the commission. It was finally agreed agenda went before the commission, I believe about 2 years ago, and the commission adopted the proposal, but Mayor Jimenez vetoed it. So ever since then, there's been a continuing effort to bring something back to the commission, and that commission has just had their eyes shut. We will have half a new commission and a new mayor as of November, so it's a perfect opportunity to work with community, with these organizations. There's a lot of information on not just the police brutality and the complaints about police, but the racism that's been pervasive, and something that the county commission needs to have a better handle and a better opportunity for dialogue. That there are policies enacted beyond the civilian oversight panel in terms of police brutality. I think we need to go back and look at the implicit and inherent racism in decisions and contracts, housing decisions. It's just across the board. So we need a community dialogue. I'm so glad you're starting it with the pastors, and it needs to grow community-wide.
Thank you. Yes, and as a matter of fact, you know, in South Dade, where I represent, the pastors, the police, we actually have a meeting once a month in Richmond Heights, and the police is there, community leaders are there, the pastors are there. I'm there every time, you know, that I'm not in Tallahassee, and it really, it's just been a wonderful thing for our community. I'm not suggesting we don't have issues, but we don't see the issues that we see in other parts of the county. That's why we're having the conversation about, is there anything that we can do? Because people are frustrated, and rightly so, and people want to vent, and rightly so. And all of us are frustrated and scared, and we need leadership right now more than anything. And I think the clergy can play a key role in that, because the last thing that a lot of African American needs is a bunch of white people telling them what to do. I mean, we will never have to have the conversation with our kids that they have to have with their kids. And that's the reality. And that's what we need to deal with.
Right.
So thank you for your answer. So let's talk about leadership in 2021, because 2020 is turning out to be just a horrible year, and it's definitely not going to be the same as 2018. The issues when we get after the election, when we get into everything, are going to be just really, really difficult. Obviously, COVID-19 and the new reality of our health and our ability to stay safe. We need to deal with all that. So tell me, what are you preparing for at the county level for this new reality? And like you said, a whole new commission, pretty much half of it, plus a new mayor. What do you think, and what are you preparing for?
So I am hoping that we will be able to make some real structural changes to the way the commission currently operates. It's been decades of paralysis in Miami-Dade County. We have not moved forward with expanding transit. We've got a water and sewer system that is decades of delayed maintenance, and so we have septic tanks that are failing, destroying Biscayne Bay. We have sewer lines that are exploding because they should have been repaired 10 years ago. There's so much work to be done, but it's been inherently difficult, I think, because a lot of the structural barriers that are in place at the commission need to be eliminated. One thing that I had advocated the last time the commission had a charter review meeting was to bring some expert inside for appropriations. We've got a $9 billion budget, and there's a person, and that's the mayor, who knows dollars are, and he plays shell game with it all the time. The commission has to try to look under a rock to find out where the money is. So I believe a commission, much like the legislature who adopts a budget that's presented to it by the governor, while the commission is presented a budget by the mayor, and they have to vote on it, have no to analyze what's in the budget. They have to rely on the mayor's staff to tell them what to do. The commission needs an appropriations staff so that they can really dive down deep into each department. So that's one particular structural issue. The commission has a chair that transitions every 2 years, the term for chair. The chair gets to set committees and a committee structure. Every time there's a new chair, there's a new set of committees. You can't get any long-term work done when change the deck chairs every 2 years. So there needs to be some longer-term planning, some more visioning, maybe a strategic plan moving forward. What are we going to do with climate change and sea level rise? We have to have a much better collaborative outreach with all of the cities so that there's dialogue on that. And then we have to plan for how to move our transit system forward, because that has not been improved in 10 years. The opportunity for new leadership is with the new commission. The old commission will have to get in line and work collaboratively with the new commission. I believe there'll be more of us that are new members of the commission than the ones that have been on it with old habits, old turf. We can't work that way. We can't hold on to an issue and say, that's my turf. Nobody else can work on that issue. I mean, you know, from the legislature, the best thing you can do is get co-sponsors for all of your initiatives and build a coalition to move things forward. And that has been a dysfunction of this county commission. Just
Absolutely. Well, that sounds exciting, that it's going to be a little different. Well, now let's talk about hurricane season, because it's staring right down at us. It's supposed to be a heavy one. How do you think we need to prepare for this supposedly possibly heavy hurricane season in the midst of COVID-19?
That's really scary, isn't it? We've had a pandemic that we really don't yet have a handle on or control over, because part of what needs to be done is the contact tracing and more testing, and most of the tests have been inaccurate. So nobody really knows how many people are or have been infected, and to think that we're going to aggregate a group of people in a shelter without knowing who's carrying a virus or infectious is just for disaster. It's just like all people in the adult living facilities that are all congregated. So we've got protocols for testing. We've got to have mentors, obviously, if you have to stretch people out and not have them in such close quarters, have to have all of the supplies available. Fortunately, I would say, having heard the emergency manager reporting on the news yesterday being the first day of hurricane season, they are actually doing that. They have that kind of planning in place to prepare for people having to congregate. I would say the other thing that individually we as families have got to do a better job of is having a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. If we can make sure that we've got everything we need to batten down the hatches and stay in our homes. If we know we're going to go to a local shelter, we need to put many more supplies and prepare much better for protecting ourselves during that period of time. Or if we're going to leave, we have to have a better sense, not just get in the car and take off wherever I-95 or the Turnpike takes us, but we have to have those planned out now, a family plan that includes what the local shelter would be, what an out-of-town shelter would be, and be on the ready to do those things now. Much more preparation than we ever had to do in the past.
Well, you know, speaking of hurricanes, you know, I think a lot of the reason why they're expecting us to have such a heavy season is because of sea level rise and climate change. And I know you've been very active your career working on these issues. So I want, you know, I want to know, what do you hope to do on these issues besides what you've already done, your record, but, you know, as we move forward, what are your plans?
So, you know, I used to say the next existential crisis we face is climate change and sea level rise, and then along comes a pandemic. And we're dealing with that. It is in fact an existential crisis, but we've still got the sea level rise and climate change we're dealing with. So there are two aspects to it. And anybody who's been watching the news, you might have heard that a lot of the contamination in the air, the pollution in the air, the contamination in the water, all over the globe has been significantly reduced as a result of everybody all over the world staying safe at home. And what that shows us is if we do change our behaviors, we don't have to stay at home 24/7, but if we start working from home more, I think more people will do that. There'll be a lot more opportunities to work remotely, do more things digitally, that we will have a more positive opportunity to pollute and not to have so many carbon emissions, and maybe we will slow down some of the climate warming that's going on. On top of that, though, we do know that we're ground zero for sea level rise here in South Florida. We're fortunate to have developed Southeast Florida Regional Climate Compact about a dozen years ago. Actually, right after I was sworn in as mayor, then County Commissioner Katie Sorensen, who had been involved in that, the development of that four-county compact, invited me to the yearly summit. By attending that summit, I all of a sudden realized what my mission was as mayor would be to make sure that I did everything that needed to be done to prepare Pinecrest to be able to deal with the challenges from storms, hurricanes, and rainstorms that were going to be much heavier, coming faster, more flooding. Pinecrest at the time did not even have a stormwater master plan. So stormwater master plan, we started investing in protecting from the thing that we were experiencing. And you might have noticed that over the last couple of weeks of very heavy rain, where there was a tremendous amount of flooding, Pinecrest didn't flood. What I learned as I was doing all of those things to protect Pinecrest was that there were too many other cities in Miami-Dade County that weren't paying attention, weren't involved in the compact, and that the county wasn't taking leadership on engaging all of the cities. I went to Mayor Jimenez the year that I was president of the League of Cities, and I said, let's work together. I am bringing you the 34 cities so that we can collaborate and we can plan countywide. Well, he blew me off. He wasn't interested. It still needs to be done. So I think that there are tremendous opportunities again now, because many more people are paying attention to what's happened as a result of sea level rise and the stronger storms, that it has to be a priority, that we have to assess our vulnerabilities throughout the county. We have to prioritize where there is the most risk to the most vulnerable populations throughout the county. That's the county's responsibility. And then bring all of the cities on board so that we're planning and investing countywide. And our dollars will go further. We'll be able to do a much better job of better educating and engaging the entire county and understanding what we need to do so that we can live here safely for many more decades to come.
Absolutely. So my last question to you, and then you can ask me questions, is, sending water south is the solution. Environmentalists advocate to ensure the preservation of the Everglades and our freshwater supply. How can the county manage development and road extension projects to align with that?
So the purpose of our urban development boundary lines and our originally the county planning and zoning and comprehensive development plans all understood that we are surrounded, our urban areas surrounded by fragile wetlands, that there's a tremendous financial investment in Everglades restoration. and that we are a part of it. And we are responsible for making sure that the investments that the federal government, the state government are making to allow the water to flow south and replenish our aquifers, we don't interfere with it. And sadly, this county commission, time and again, is approving development projects or road projects like that ill-advised 836 expansion, which studies have shown would not improve the ride time for people in the western part of the county to get downtown or to get east, more than about 5 minutes, but it would destroy, it would go through the wetlands and it would destroy the plants. On the other side of the county, that mega mall, again, was approved over fragile wetlands. So we need to back off on these kind of projects that are the antithesis for what we should be doing, which is urban infill, transit-oriented development along the 6 corridors that we're studying, and make sure that we are doing all that we can not to pollute Biscayne Bay with nitrogen and phosphorus and fertilizers and septic tanks and sewer bursts. Do a better job of keeping the water quality what it needs to be, and making sure that our fragile lands are protected and that we are cooperating and collaborating with the efforts of the state.
Before we go,
the Everglades.
Yes. Before we go to you asking me questions, I just want to tell you that, you know, this week I've been thinking about what we can do to marry transit corridors you just mentioned and the need for affordable housing. And I think we already had a crisis with affordable housing before, and which is why I pushed so hard and was so proud of the fact that in this budget, we finally fully funded affordable housing. But I'm actually thinking of things to think outside the box, because we are going to have a lot of businesses that are no longer going to need the big office space, because I think a lot of businesses are realizing that there's a lot to telecommuting, that there may be ways to not have as much space, and I was just again brainstorming, trying to think outside of the box. If some of that, you know, already built, we have buildings, we have so many of them that are going to be trying to figure out what to do with so much retail space or space for office buildings, to turn some of that with tax incentives into some kind of housing, because we're going to need it, and we already do, and these are ways for us to think. So that's just an idea, obviously, something that, you know, I'll get working on in Tallahassee next year, but just wanted to throw that out there for you, because it just made me think of that. That I've been trying to think, what are we going to do to fix this problem? And what are all these people going to do with all this property that they have, where they actually rent to businesses, and businesses are now realizing, including mine, I'm a small business owner, I'm like, well, do I really need to pay for all that space? And so I think a lot of us are going through that, and there's just going to be for us as a state and as a community to figure out what to do with all that in a positive way that helps those that need affordable housing, but also climate change and less use of cars and all these things that come in together, less roads. So anyway, but I'll let you ask me questions.
We also have some questions from the crowd I'd like to get in real quick, especially because we were just talking about the environment. Anne wants to know what the current status is of the sewer projects and other infrastructure projects, and how that's going.
So the county is under a consent decree that they signed with the federal government because which wasn't the first, it was, I think, the third consent decree, because they kept failing to address the maintenance of the sewer system. 2014, they entered into a consent decree, and they've been dragging their feet with actually advancing that project the way it should have been done. And hence we have these pipes that just keep bursting. There was a major burst of millions of gallons in the Oleta River last year, and somebody came in. I was going to all of the Biscayne Bay Task Force meetings, and they asked county to come in and explain what happened with that burst pipe in the Oleta River, which was discovered by a kayaker going through the river and saw bubbling up, which is, who knows how long that bubbling up had been taking place, contaminating the river and thus the bay. But when they came in to report on it, they said that that particular pipe had been scheduled to be repaired in 2013, but because of the recession, they had postponed it to 2018, and then they didn't do anything in 2018, and it burst in 2019. So they are not expediting the way they must, because we've got sewage just, and they have to enhance the program and advance it much quicker. Then you've got all the septic tanks that are failing because the water levels are rising. There is no plan. There is no plan by the county right now for how to transition from these septic tanks, over 125,000 and counting, because they're still putting them in. They're building mansions in Pinecrest with septic tanks because we don't even have access to sewer lines. That's going to be a huge to make sure we start getting those sewer lines and connecting up all of the homes that are within range to the sewer system. We're going to need a new sewage treatment plan as well, that are going to require assistance from the state and the federal government. I know Congresswoman Shalala has been talking about trying to access funds for Miami-Dade County. We're going to need it.
Great. Sorry, I didn't mean,
Now, do you want me to?
I know you have some questions for Annette too, so go ahead.
Okay, so Annette, I'm going to combine two questions. The progress that you were making on initiatives that you were working on last year that didn't make it through, and we know sometimes it takes a couple years to get major legislation through. How do you maintain progress on, and then in the midst of this economic downturn, how do you think the state is going to deal with the the funding of the really critical issues like education and social services and all of that? How do we move forward downturn? And how do you move forward?
Well, I spoke a little bit about that, but let me first talk about maintaining progress. It's not easy in Tallahassee to get anything. Since the Republicans that we deal with helping the environment, supporting our teachers, climate change, and just things that deal with moving us forward instead of backwards. However, I've had some success, and I'm just for those of you who know me. If you don't know me, I am not a quitter. I'm somebody that just keeps going, and you can bring me down, all you right back up, and I get back up stronger. And so, and how other people who will join you and help you. And frankly, I'm not a big fan of the current governor, and I have enough to say, but I will tell you, at least when it comes to climate change, the door was open, right? He was willing to listen. So for me, one of the things that I really want to see, and that I'm not going to give up until we do, is the protection of our water. We have a great deal to worry about when it comes to water. I believe that a lot of our awards will be about water, and the fact that we're already in court and have been for years with Georgia over water. We're already fighting over water, but somehow we also give water away to corporations like Nestle. And these are our beautiful spring water that is something so special to Florida. And so I am trying to make sure that we don't do that, and that we actually have funding to make sure that we have funding for those septic kind of projects that are so expensive. And I have, Cindy, I used to live in Pinecrest, and I know how much you fought for that, but let me tell you, it is a problem all throughout the state. We have that problem, and I don't care if the senator or the representative from each of those areas is a Republican or a Democrat. They're all dealing with where are we going to get the funding to deal with this major issue. So, what I'm trying to do is something that I think is a no-brainer. We should not be giving water away to a corporation to then bottle it and sell it to us. Just like we don't when a company takes sand or they do rock mining. All of these things belong to the state of Florida and should not be free. I'd love to have a company where they give me the product for free. Who wouldn't? So that's a big fight, and obviously a huge special interest. After I put together my bill and even got a hearing, the chairman of the committee where the hearing, which is unheard of, but he's the chairman of the Republican Party and the chairman of the committee where we got the hearing, and clearly he got told you made a mistake, but I think there is support across the aisle. They just will tell you quietly, and we need them to get the guts to actually do the right thing for the state of Florida when it comes to our water. So many things. When it comes to the economic downturn, I spoke about that earlier, and I'm really concerned that we're going to go back to Tallahassee and they're going to do what they always do, which is make our teachers pay, one more thing we did in this budget that was great. We finally give a raise to our state employees. Our state employees have not gotten a raise since the last recession. I mean, it's been 10 years. These people, no raise. Like, we've all noticed how everything's gone up. And so it's just really crazy that we finally get them that. And what I don't want is that we end up taking that away from them, taking the raise from our teachers, taking away the fully funding of the Sadowski, the Affordable Housing Fund. These are things that we need to invest in, is for the good of our state. And I will tell you my suggestion, and what I'm going to fight for is, right now we're giving corporations a rebate. So if this is what's so crazy, if you guys don't know about this, just know this. If the state says, oh, we're going to get this much money, right? You sort of think we're going to get this much money. We end up getting more because we did really well. When we get more, instead of that money, saying, we've been cutting affordable housing, we've been cutting our investment in infrastructure projects and in all these things, we've been cutting education. We should put it either in a fund for an emergency, like right now, COVID-19, or let's make sure we invest it in the right places. No. What does Florida do? Florida gives it back to corporations. It's crazy. They get a rebate. Like, oh my God.
And so I just, I mean, even some businesses, I've spoken to business owners, they're like, we don't know what to do with it because we're dealing with the tax ramifications of getting a rebate. And I mean, it's just like they have to hire lawyers and accountants to deal with the whole thing of them getting a rebate when the state could use it. And there's so many people in need. So I personally believe we need to repeal that stupid rebate, and pardon my language, but I get really upset because I just don't understand why we're behaving so ridiculously stupid, because this is not what we should be doing. And now we're feeling the brunt of it, and it's going to be a big fight when we go back. And they try to cut teachers, they try to cut state employees, they try to cut the people that need the most. And frankly, I won't have it, because our teachers are the ones that are educating our kids. And boy, do we now appreciate our teachers even more when we're sitting at home trying to get our kids through this online craziness. And it's been like, oh my God, how I love your teachers. I wish you were back with them and not just online, right? So I think it's going to be a big fight, and that's what I think it's coming down the pipeline as far as funding.
Yeah, I think we have thank you for that. I totally agree. We have time for one more question. And this is actually about the hot topic, one of the hot topics of the day, and it's contact tracing and testing. So I think the question is specifically about what can be done at the county level, but I think there's a role, unless I'm wrong, at the state level too. So I'd love to hear from both of you about what's in the works, what really needs to be done and is not being done, and where we are with those issues with testing and contact tracing for COVID.
Who do you want to go first?
You can go ahead, you have the spotlight.
Okay. Well, listen, I think the first thing that we need to do about contact rates, about the testing, is do a lot more testing, and then put out the real numbers. Quit lying to people, because the role of the government is for people to trust the government. We are not trusting it. I'm not trusting it, and I'm part of the government. They're not giving me real information. And so if the newspapers have to sue to get the state to give us the numbers when it comes to our elderly population, to give us the real numbers when it comes to why don't these numbers match? The county is saying this, the state's saying this, the CDC is saying something else. It is outrageous. I mean, we are feeling very vulnerable as it is. And I think what we need is just be open and transparent. It's supposed to be a sunshine state. We have laws. We have it in our Constitution that you are supposed to be open. We're not being open. We're not being honest. And I just think that would be my number one thing, is give people comfort in knowing that we have leaders in our state who are actually being straight with people so they can behave. Right now, people are thinking everything's fine and they're going out, and I see some of them not even wearing a mask. And I'm like, well, of course our own freaking president won't wear a mask. So, they think everything's okay. It's not okay. And people need to know so that they can make decisions accordingly. And that's what I think the state should do. I'm going to let Cindy handle the county.
So, well, our problems at the county emanate, as you said, from the state not being open and honest, and setting guidelines that we all want to abide by. And unfortunately, we have a governor who is reading the playbook from the president and playing the same games that the president has been playing, and not denying, but certainly not taking this pandemic as seriously as he has a responsibility to do. So he has not led, and he's left it up, just like the country isn't leading and it's leaving it up to the states. Our state isn't leading, and he's leaving it up to the counties. And each county is coming up with their own protocols and accessing tests, and we have no way to rely on what should be done. What I would do is I would dovetail on what Governor Cuomo is doing in New York and Mayor Bloomberg, former Mayor Bloomberg. They are working together to create a best practice and standards for doing the COVID contact testing and tracing, and let them set those standards, and then let us follow in their footsteps that we're doing it exactly the way that it should be done. The county has also not been upfront in a lot of the data as well, and they're blaming it on the information not going from the medical examiners and the health department to the state dashboard, but the county isn't doing that either. And then there'll be a jump and they'll say, oh, that's just because we had a big batch of tests that all came in the same time. And we don't even know where the infection is coming from, because they're not getting address people when they're testing them. And they're using the test site as that's where the infection rate is. So we have no guidance at the county level either. Those antibody testing program that Mayor Jimenez came up with was turned out to be inaccurate, I guess, tests in the first place. The way they went about randomly trying to get people to take the test was not effective, so we wasted time and money, and we have very little data and information to rely on. So I would look to New York. Do it the way New York is doing it, because Governor Cuomo knows how to do it right.
Thank you. Thanks so much to both of you for joining us today. I really appreciate the conversation and learned a ton, so thank you. One of the ways, the women only win, and candidates, especially women, only win if we support them. So we have two asks for you today. If you live in District 7, or if you have friends that live in District 7, and I put in the chat exactly where that is, Key Biscayne, down the coast, all the way to Pinecrest, and a little bit of Kendall. Can you take a sign and put it in your yard? I'll personally deliver it. That's the bonus. No, I'm just kidding. Or will you host a meet and greet with Cindy? It could be virtual, it could be on Zoom, however you want to hold it. But women got elected because we support them. So I'm going to be emailing everybody after this with a link to the video. Please feel free to reply. Reach me anytime, marika@marikalinch.com, and we'll get you a sign or a meet and greet. So thanks for everybody for coming. And I hope we see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marika. Thank you, Ruth List.
Bye.